30 seconds. All right.
All right. I think we're all live. Everyone, all the viewers, how are you?
Thank you for doing it. Hi, this is Valerie Leonard. I'm the founder of Nonprofit Utopia. I want to welcome everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. First of all, I want to say hello to Gloria Smith. She's the executive director of Black Star Project. And then we've got Raheem, sorry for that, Cooper Thomas. He is the internal accountant with Black Star Project. And we're also being joined by Pierre. All right. Yes. Pierre Clark. He is the founder of Urban Development Unlimited, LLC. Thank you very much. And he's also a consultant to the Black Star Project. If you're watching in Facebook, if you have any questions, please feel free to post and post early and often. We're going to be doing that the Chicago way. And from time to time, if we see a comment or a question directed at a certain person, we'll make sure that that comment is highlighted and that we can share. As some of you may recall, this is Community Networks Month in the Nonprofit Utopia community. For the past year, we've been focusing on different issues on a monthly basis. We started off with leadership development. Then we focused on things like board development. Just last month, we were doing strategic planning. And all of those things really laid the groundwork for why we're here today. We're going to be focusing on community networks with the specific focus as to how community networks can serve to help remote learning and then facilitate life in general in communities, particularly on Chicago South and West Side. But anyone can use the lessons learned that we're going to have today. All righty. So again, our guests are Pierre Clark. He's the managing partner of Urban Development Unlimited, LLC. We've got Gloria Smith. She's the executive director of Black Star Project. And we've got Raheem Cooper Thomas. He is, I'll listen to you just waving. He is the internal accountant at Black Star Project, and he does a number of other things as I've observed. That's why he's here. Alrighty, so welcome aboard, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us. And I'm going to have you come to us, in your own way. I gave everyone your names and your titles, and I'm going to start with Gloria, and then we'll hear from Raheem, and then we'll hear from Pierre. Just give us a little background about yourself, how you came to this work and all that good stuff. But you only got 3 minutes, right?
Okay. Well, first of all, thank you, Valerie, for having us today. And as you said, my name is Gloria Smith. I am the executive director of the Black Star Project. The project was founded almost 25 years ago in 1996 by the late Philip Jackson, with the mission to close the racial academic achievement gap and to lift up Black and Brown communities, especially on the South and West sides of Chicago. As I said, we've been around for almost 25 years. Some of you may know Philip through his work with the city of Chicago and Chicago Public Schools. As such, we've had a number of programs over the years, including mentoring and tutoring in Chicago Public Schools. We've had daddy-daughter dances, mass meal graduations, parent university workshops, family universities, And many of you may remember or know about our fatherhood initiatives. Fathers Walk Your Child to School on the first day of school. The
Mm-hmm.
Black Star Project created that about
Wow, that's
10 or so
awesome.
years ago. Yes, yeah. And many more. Raheem will talk a little bit about some of our current programs, but I've been with the project as executive director for the last 2 years. Prior to that, I was actually, I've been a part of Black Star since the beginning, one of the founding board members 25 years ago.
Can you
Um,
hear me now?
and yes, and just various positions with the project off and on. I was executive director about 15 years ago, so I've had a long history with that. But prior to working with Black Star, I retired from SBC Ameritech. So my background is in technology and regulatory. I was associate director of regulatory. So that's who I am. That's what I bring to this work. I am excited to be a part of Black Star today. Many of you may know that Philip Jackson is my brother. I'm one of four sisters. And so just very happy to be continuing his work and his legacy.
Mm-hmm.
So thank you again, Valerie.
Okay, thank you. Thank you so much. Can you hear me now? Okay, awesome. Awesome. Okay, go ahead, Raheem.
Absolutely. I just want to echo what Gloria is saying about around thank you to Valerie and Nonprofit Utopia for this session today. We're always excited to speak to the community. If you're listening and you follow the Black Star Project, you know a visit to the office is like, you know, I don't know, cream on a crop. It's the icing on the cake
It's
for
awesome.
us.
It's
Absolutely. We love when people come in just to kind of talk about things that are going on with them and things that are going on in the community. So this is great. I've been working for the Black Star Project for about a year now. Um, how did I come to the Black Star Project? Long story. I don't think I can do it in 3 minutes, but to make it short, graduated from Morehouse College. If you're a Morehouse man out there, absolutely. We got AUC is here. So after college, I was working in banking. Didn't really like banking, didn't really like the role. And so I transitioned up. Actually, one of my clients at the bank um, came to me. He said, "Hey, you're studying for the CPA. I know a company that's looking for an accountant." And I went to Gloria. I think it was like 6 p.m. in the evening. I'm like, okay, I can still come if you're going to be there. And she gave me some financial statements and asked me to do an analysis. And ever since then, I've been kind of transitioned over to the Black Star Project full time. And each and every day, you learn something new. It gets a little deeper, and it gets a little bit more serious. The work that is needed and the work that we're doing. And this topic, remote learning networks, is one of the most serious topics that we've encountered recently. So that's how I got into the work, and I'm glad I'm here.
Thank you. Thank you so much for joining us. And Pierre.
Yes, hi. Thanks for doing this, Valerie. Really, I've known Valerie a long time and don't need to tell anybody about her that has heard of her. They know what a super individual she is and a super
Thank
consultant.
you.
So this is great that we're on here. So I'm Pierre Clark. I'm with. I've done a lot in the past 2 decades in community development, in technology access, and nonprofit work, and some people know that I've been very much an advocate of technology and using technology to empower our people. And so I've worked in many realms, have started a lot of nonprofits, and am currently working with a couple now that I'm developing. But I got involved with Gloria and the Black Star Project more than I had been, in a long time in full time because, of course, we all knew Philip and we all worked with him. And
Yes.
so our concern when Philip passed, unfortunately, was that the Black Star Project keep going, that it keep moving and keep going. So I got involved with Gloria and, one day she just said, "Hey, do the newsletter." So, I started doing that and been working with them and they've been working with us and we had a really good relationship and experience. And so this remote learning piece is very important, and we're all looking to be solution oriented for these children because it's very important that we deliver these resources because it's serious. And if you go to a lot of the news articles, you're seeing how that's serious now with the remote learning piece that we have. So we can talk about that more, but that's basically the summary of what we've been doing.
Okay, well, that's a good segue into the question that I had for you, which is, what are some of the issues that you're seeing now, especially now with remote learning and COVID-19?
Go ahead, well, Gloria, go ahead.
Well, this is very interesting times. I'm on Zoom pretty much all day and all night.
Yes, yes, yes.
Yeah, so I can imagine what these young people are feeling, although they love technology. But we have to find ways to make it effective for them. And so I love what Pierre has created. He has created this remote learning platform, and I'd like for him to talk a little bit about that. Something that we've been
Well,
doing.
yeah, so the issue is that remote learning is the way that COVID-19 has forced us to deal with our education, deal with communication, and our kids having to learn now, through a tablet or through a smartphone, in the worst case, or through a computer or Chromebook. And quite frankly, there are a lot of problems. I mean, there are a lot of problems in Chicago. There are problems all over the country. Okay, it's not working out well. There's a lot of disconnects. The schools weren't ready, and kids are suffering because of that. I think one statistic I saw said that maybe 30% of the African American students in our communities didn't get on at all in this last first round of remote learning that happened in the spring here in the city. So we have a big problem. That's a lot of people, a lot of kids. Okay, and we need to address that issue for our children because if we don't, the educational opportunities are going to be, lost to them. And, of course, I have a couple of daughters, and I was just on with them today, okay, and on with them Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. We just started school, and believe me, it's not going smoothly. I mean, they're trying to, do some things and make it work, but there's a lot of problems, and we need to address those problems that, are coming up.
Okay, so what specifically seems to be the problem? Is it that children don't have access, or is it that they have access but they may not necessarily have the support?
Well, there's a couple of issues. One is that a great many of them don't have access. I mean, the city has created this $50 million program to connect kids. They targeted 100,000 of our kids. Only about 20,000 have been connected, and that was as of an article that came out on Tuesday in the Tribune. Okay, so the Tribune had a good article on what's going on.
Okay,
And
20,000 students
yeah,
have been connected out of how many in the
a
system?
hundred thousand, a 100,000 that they've charged. Only
Wow.
20,000 so far. So there's 80,000 left. And of course, if you got 80,000 kids and they're not sure of the connectivity of those kids, that's pretty bad. So, the issues are that they weren't ready. They never really embraced technology. They never really prepared for this time. And
Yeah.
when COVID hit, it just threw everything into a chaotic state. They had to rush and try to put something together. And of course, our kids were behind anyway because we didn't have connectivity or computers in the same ratio as everybody else. So now we've got to catch up even as they are not ready. And so the kids and the parents who had that connectivity, of course, they didn't have as much problem, but our children, had a lot more. So, but I don't want to make it just for African American because if you go to our site that we set up, you'll see this is all over the country. It's not just African Americans. It's not just,
Yeah.
lower income children. It's everybody, everywhere.
Oh, that's
And this is
horrible.
very serious.
So
So
what's the name of your site, your platform?
okay, so it's called remote learning hub.mn.co. And you should know about that because you are working.
Can you hear me? Or is it Pierre who's having an
I
issue.
think Pierre's having some issues.
Okay.
I'll just add a little bit to what he said. I said that I retired from the phone company 20 years ago, so my background is in technology. 20
Mm-hmm.
years ago, I was also working on a master's degree in education.
Mm-hmm.
Never taught, never worked in education. I've always been, in business or nonprofit work. But
Mm-hmm.
even then, I recognized that teachers and school administrators weren't using technology like they should have been 20 years ago. And
Mm-hmm.
so here we are 20 years into the future, and we're trying to catch up. But it's never too late. It's never too late. I have faith and hope that we will be able to um, work with our children effectively. In fact, Black Star has a Saturday University program that I'd like Raheem to talk a little bit about.
Okay.
Is one way that we're trying to address some of this remote learning.
Yeah, absolutely. Just to put it a little bit more in perspective, I'm trying to remember back to when I was in elementary school, which wasn't that long ago. And I remember a technology class. That was a class that they started. This was completely new to us, where we set up a computer lab and we were learning to type. So this was this kind of typing program back when I was, just to kind of get everybody accumulated, to using the computers. And I think the concern, this is a big debate that has come up, the concern that a lot of people are talking about, especially parents, is, whose responsibility is it to educate the children? That's been a big question
Right.
for a long time. And I think we're really starting to see the effects of the results. I think parents relied heavily on the school system
Mm-hmm.
to not only to teach students, but also give them community support, resources, et cetera, that once it crumbles down, once the institution crumbles down, what you see is that, a lot of the, students thinking about No Child Left Behind policies and et cetera, are now kind of being drawn out in a way where we do need to kind of scramble for solutions. And I just think that's, the reality of it. Um, I believe that the children is the responsibility of the community. I think it is our responsibility to teach students. It's our responsibility just to be there. This past weekend, my brothers was over, and I asked them, "Have you ever worked with exponents before?" He's going on about it, and I'm putting up a question, and it's just that relationship. Just it's the work that goes into just having a conversation with our youth about, topics that makes it a lot more receptive. We even made a game out of it. They don't know, but we were really practicing some essential math skills. I'll say it that way. And so, with that being said, Saturday University is a program that's designed to meet that kind of outcome. It's designed for students to interact with members of the community, where we develop curriculums, we develop resources to help students and aid parents with academic enrichment. So this is really geared towards students who don't have the academic support outside of the school, who need extra resources for math, reading, English, and writing, even computer science. We teach a little bit of that too, and also to help with socialism, helping them understand self-awareness, understand how to work with others, et cetera, identity, all of these things that we usually run on Saturdays.
Yeah.
And so the Black Star Project is kind of in limbo to figure out exactly how do we help parents. This is why it's such a good, touchy topic, because there's so many ills. We're talking about the education crisis, we're not realizing, that's kind of on the back burner for a lot of people who are just trying to figure out how they're going to do what's next for tomorrow. I think this is tremendous pressure for a lot of people, and we have the Black Star Project has community information sessions when we invite the community to come in to talk a little bit about what they're doing, what programs they're using, what programs we have, to figure out how do we as a community address this problem.
Okay,
Yeah.
so are you guys, have you transferred your programming to virtual, or are you practicing social distancing in a physical place?
Absolutely. Great question. All of our programs are now virtual.
Okay.
And so we just finished our program, Building Chicago's Next CEO, which is a summer program that focuses on micro entrepreneurship. And we had a lot of interactive worksheets. We had a lot of not 101, but kind of group coaching, et cetera, et cetera. So I think in a lot of ways, the virtual learning environment does bring a lot of benefits for just being able to meet conveniently. I think it also gives students kind of more, how do you say, confidence, if you will, because a lot of the physical pressures are gone. Being up in front of the class, go up to the board, you're kind of comfortably in front of your device, and so that went really well. And so what we're trying to do now is figure out for the school session, how can we support parents in a way that still have the virtual presence, but still has effectiveness around interacting with the children. Just really quickly, I know I'm probably rambling, but that's another element that's it's hard to overcome. I can see the challenges that the Chicago Public Schools are having communicating directly with the students. I think they have to kind of communicate through the parents, and with all the other added problems, it creates chaos.
Okay. Yes. I can imagine. And Pierre, can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. And so some of the challenges I'm having with the internet mirror some of the challenges that these kids and the parents are having, because I'm a tech and I've been around a long time in the tech field. So you can just imagine, if I'm having challenges, then they're having challenges. And so one of the things that Raheem just mentioned is that in terms of what is going on with the remote learning as it relates to dealing with everyday life, and now you have that as a added thing that you have to deal with. Okay, it's not school was more than just a place for them to learn. It was also a babysitter. They served lunch a couple of times a day and breakfast. They served a couple of meals. The parents could work. Now with this COVID piece, and I think Gloria can mention about an article that she read the other day, where the lady that worked for the Department of Public Health had to choose between her job and teaching her kid in a remote learning environment. I'm happy to see that article. So this is not just about the educational issues, which are big enough. It's about life issues that are coming up and that these parents and these people have to deal with. And if you have a kid and you're trying to figure that out, all of that now is coming to a head. And as I said, it's not just low income people. It used to be, we could say that, well, the low income residents didn't have connectivity, they didn't have a computer. But this is impacting everybody all over the country. So it's a very serious piece.
Okay, and before you had that technical difficulty, you were telling us about your platform. You want to name the platform and let us know where you can find it, and let us know what the features are.
Yes. So you're working with the platform that we're working with as well. And I typed it in the chat, and it's called remotelerninghub.mn.co. Okay. And so what we're working to do with that is to connect parents, teachers, students to information and resources that they can use to deal with this remote learning issue. Everything from how to work with Google Classroom, how to best set up an environment for learning, how to connect with other parents, resources. Now, we just started, so we got only a few people so far, but we've been getting some good buzz, and we're starting to get people to sign on. And so what we like to do is just make that available so that parents have a source that they can trust. that they can come to and say, hey, I'm having a problem with Google Classroom. What can I do about it? Or, my kids' homework assignments are not being saved on the server. What can we do about that? Or, I've got to go to work and, I don't know what to do with my kids because I got to be at work and my kids got to be on the remote learning. What do we do? So these are all real questions that we want this network to be able to provide some insight and answers to. And it's free. Just log on and join. And, we wanted to see how we can help and be a resource because we know it's needed.
Right. That's awesome. And for those of you who are watching on YouTube or if you're watching on Facebook, if you have any questions of any of our panelists, please feel free to post them in the chat room if you have any comments. And we would really love to hear some of your experiences with this remote learning, particularly in the age of COVID-19. All righty. And Gloria, so what are some of the ways that parents and students can go about starting their own local education networks? I know you guys have been at this networking thing for quite a long time, but if you're just starting from scratch, what advice would you give to parents who are just starting?
Well, the Black Star Project used to have parent university workshops in all of not all of, but many of the Chicago public schools with some wonderful facilitators, we call them professors, who would go in and teach courses in things like how to create conducive learning space for your child and how to help your child with homework, how to do those exponential things that Raheem mentioned, how to talk to your child about things that are going on in the world like violence, and how to create an African-centered or cultural environment for your child, how to teach them history. So these were some of the courses that we taught through this parent university workshop, and things like healthy eating, mental health, and one of my favorite courses was in teaching mindfulness, teaching children meditation and relaxation skills and how to think creatively. So those were some of the things that we taught through the parent university workshops, knowing and understanding that parents are the child's first and best teachers. And so with that in mind, what I would suggest that parents do in creating networks, find out who's doing what in your community. Create co-ops and things that we used to do back in the 60s. We used to call them freedom schools, where the parents would come in and Pierre said that, some parents are having trouble finding babysitters. Create a co-op, create a network, create something in your community so that you all can support and help each other. And again, parents are the first and best teachers for your children. And, Black Star is a resource. We're a community hub. We're here to help you. Reach out to us. We're at 35th and King Drive. As Raheem said, we love to see you stop by. Call us, 773-285-9600. Follow us on Facebook. Follow us through Pierre's new website. He's remote learning platform. He has some wonderful information, including that story of the young mother who had to give up, who had to make the decision about teaching or being with her child or working. So there are many ways that you can get involved and create a network and create something for your child.
Yeah, I think it's interesting. Robert Douglas. Do you guys know Robert Douglas? He's very active in the Roseland community on issues around community development and education. And he mentioned that we have to develop a social contract this model is presented via Common Core and is communal.
Absolutely.
So, okay, I am not familiar with that specific model. If either of you are, if you could comment, and then Robert, I'm going to ask you, if you're still there, if you can expound in the comments.
Well, it sounds to me a lot like the Freedom School model back in the 60s, where the parents really came in and worked closely with the teachers and others to teach their children. And, there was intergenerational engagement. And I think that that's something that's important. And also teaching our children history and a lot of things that the schools aren't teaching, at this time. Art projects and civic engagement. So yeah, there are a lot of things that community co-ops and networks can do.
I think we had very strong PTAs at one time. I
Yeah.
think we had very strong engagement of parents that would come to the school and meet. I think we've lost a lot of that. And I think that one thing that we can do with technology is kind of bring that back. We can connect the parents conveniently in ways that will enhance their ability to know what their kids are doing. And I think the remote learning piece is ironically a way for parents to really see how their kids are really functioning in school. When kids are at school, you don't know what's happening with them. And so, this remote learning can give you that opportunity to kind of see that, get more involved. And I think we need to do that. I think that, yes, the schools are public schools, but we're the public. So we need to be, involved with what's happening at those schools. We can't just leave it on them. You have to be involved. You have to connect and know what's going on. And I think a lot of parents are realizing that. I don't think parents really understood that their kids really weren't connected to technology in that way. I think they just thought, well, they're in school, computers are in school, connectivity's in school. I don't think they even realized that this challenge was there until they came home, and now they got to face that, because the kid is there every day. So I think those are issues. And as Gloria has said, the Black Star Project was a leader and really making those connections with Saturday University, with the after school programs, with the educational programs. Of course, Philip used to be part of the public schools, so he understood a lot of what was going on at that point. And I think we need to bring those things back. Simple as that. I think we have to, get more engaged. It's just that simple. Otherwise, you're going to look up in December and you're going to look up next year and you're going to see your kids not really having progressed at all educationally. I think that's the fear that I see so many of us talking about. And you remember, Valerie, we lost last year due to the strike.
Right.
We had the strike and then we had COVID. So we've already had a lost year, so we're in danger of another one.
Oh, that is really, really scary. Especially if you got kids who are graduating from 8th grade, graduating from high school. It's really tough. Now, Raheem, I wanted to get back to you. We talk about the social impact of education and remote learning and how it might impact our socialization. So we have to be very, very careful about making sure that we put systems in place to make sure that we're still raising children who are well-rounded and not just tech savvy. But another thing that we look at is the impact, at least from a funder standpoint, and sometimes the community and the taxpayer, they want to know how impactful are these community networks? How impactful is this remote learning? What are some of the ways that you would suggest that people can capture the impact so that they can tell the story and, obviously tell a true story that's backed with data?
Absolutely. And it's a great question. I think that's something that a lot of organizations deem to be easy to come up with narratives that's founded in data and supported by some type of process where they can measure the impact of the work that they're doing. And, I think the best way to do that is first to understand what are the objectives of what you're doing. when developing programming, especially when it comes to funding, I think, the first thing that funders are looking for is what is this money going to do?
Right.
And outside of that, a lot of funders also like, how many people is it going to help? And so I think the first thing is to really understand the process of how the program meets certain objectives. Okay. And I think once you get there, you always want to have something that tests that theory throughout the program. So there has to be something in place where you can use to say, you can measure if this is, let's say, is educational. You can measure if it's a number of hours, it could be number of assignments completed, it could be a measurement of academic performance, et cetera, but something in place that mirrors the objectives that you're trying to do to help you measure, well, what does this do? And I think another big point is to have something external that can come and look at that system and make sense of it. It's really just like accounting in my mind. But pretty much what you're trying to do is put together a process or put together a system that can operate itself, and so I think that's the really big thing that you really want to look at. I think you really want to look at what are the objectives that you're trying to achieve. And when I say that, I'm not saying, well, I'm just trying to help students get an A in their classroom.
Okay.
I think we have to be strategic around, well, what can we realistically do? Given our team, because that question is kind of very broad. So I'm trying to bring it. But when you think about the work that you're doing, you think about the support that you have, and realistically what you can achieve, I think is always a great story.
Okay. I think listening to you, it sounds to me like you're saying that whatever your program is, you have to have goals and objectives. That's one thing, but you have to make sure too that you need to align the activities of your program with your goals and objectives. Otherwise, there will be no change. And I can give you a good example. I was running a program back in Lawndale back in the day, and we set goals and objectives for kids to use youth leadership as well as communications skills to, use a newsletter to develop their communication skills, also to help them become more literate. All right. So we set these goals and objectives. And then when we set up the activities, we achieved all of our goals and objectives. But at the end of the year, I was totally dismayed because from listening to the kids and looking at them write, what they wrote, there was no discernible difference between where they were when they started and when they finished. But yet we met every one of our goals and objectives. And, when we did a post-mortem or autopsy, we found that our goals and objectives were more process in nature. So we were looking at the number of widgets, the number of people that we put through a program and saying that this is success. And that is successful. Let's be clear, because the kids did finish. That is a success. But we did not put systems in place where we could document the change, so we didn't do a pre and post test so we could prove that there was some incremental change, because education is a developmental process. And especially, when you're dealing with kids who have been, just deprived of all the resources. So it was very, very difficult to determine how much they actually have grown, if they grew at all.
Absolutely. Music to my ears. I think, when making goals and objectives, we do make a lot of assumptions. We assume that because this is in place, then it's gonna have an output for that,
Right.
and that's why I think it's important to have someone who is trailing kind of the program and what you're doing, just to draw those things out earlier. Like, for example, when we were running the BCNC program, one of the things that we wanted to do is for the students to understand positionality. So for them to understand where they are, politically speaking, socially speaking, financially speaking, and develop a plan that will help them understand that and create realistic goals for the future and business plan, et cetera, et cetera. And we built out this worksheet, and we had one worksheet that connected to another worksheet. So when they got there, it went to that worksheet, and we assumed
Right.
that these are no brainers, right?
Right.
On very first day, when we asked the students to introduce themselves and talk a little bit about themselves, we immediately saw that process is not going to work. We're going to have we brought in some external people into the program for them to observe the students, and they will have one-on-ones. It's just,
Yeah.
it takes a lot of support for that. And I think another big point too that you brought up is to be realistic about the results, right? Everybody wants an A on a test.
Right.
And everybody wants an A program, but I think there's good merit in understanding, and I think this is a good story for funders for you to paint the picture of the things that are being funded and where they work and where they don't work. And I think when we look at this and CPS, this is a great case study, I think, for a lot of people who are going for their master's in education right now and are in business school, are really trying to figure this one out. Because I do think it's important for us to, once we come to the realization of the results in a raw form, it's important to understand, okay, what are the pieces that are missing there? And I think that's what the Black Star Project is really trying to understand. It's very easy to say, well, do a grant that gives all the students who don't have laptops. Okay.
Right.
And even when you do that, we've spoken to parents, it does not help. It just, you got these fancy laptops, this fancy computer center, but students are still failing. Students are not, WBEZ reported today, students didn't even come to class.
Wow.
There are so many students who didn't even show up. You know what I'm saying? So I think, these are things that we have to be realistic about. And I love Robert's comment, because we do have to have a social contract.
Right.
I think the
And
Black Star,
community support.
absolutely. For, quick story, and then I'll be quiet.
Okay.
I worked last year. I coached the Urban Prep debate team free of charge. I did policy debate when I was in school, and I went to Urban Prep when I was in high school, and they called me and said, "Hey, we have a debate team over here in Bronzeville. We need a coach." And so I came and I started coaching, and they're trying to get me to fill out all of these documents for me to be employed there. And I really wanted it to be just community service, and they really didn't understand that. Like, why you won't let us pay you? Da 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 da. And I think it's so funny how things happen. Now I understand why that kind of stuff is so important. We need people in the community who's going to do the work just because, they're going to help students just because, that's the thing to do. And I think that's the area that our community has to focus on. That's where we need to start with the plan. How do we first build community? When we build community, then we can talk about the resources that would help to support, so it's all a big mess. But that's a great point, Robert. I'm really glad you brought that up. We need social contracts.
Now, at this point, I'm going to share on screen some of the comments that were made during the discussion. And after I share the comments, then you guys feel free to comment. I wish there was a way I could bring these people on screen in this system, but I just can't. I remember I asked Robert to expound on his first comment on what a social contract was, and he was saying that this is a holistic approach to education. He says, I love remote learning, but building a social contract strengthens culture. And I shared with you guys Audrey's comment, and I'm not quite sure what prompted her to say this. I think it was something.
Yeah, she had a testing in CPS has been an epic failure. Each child needs a plan. They need to be assessed individually other than testing.
Right. Okay. And you know what? I can agree with that because I think education is so different from the way, well, now than it was when I was growing up. You know, I think people are teaching, we're training our students really by rote to respond certain ways and not necessarily
critical thinking.
Critical thinking. It's more or less teaching them to the test.
Right.
And then Robert had another comment. He says, I have an 8th grader and this is the best. Now CPS is going to privatize education via charter schools, let them prepare to contract for social emotional learning. Athletic clubs is going to be big. And then Robert says he likes testing. And then Audrey responded,
yes,
that's an epic failure. And I know I'm supposed to be neutral, but I would be inclined to agree. You know, we put too much emphasis on tests. And Audrey says each child needs a plan. They need to be assessed individually.
And that's one of the things that we do through our Saturday University program. We do a pre and post just to see where the student is at the beginning. And then we do our enrichment work and then see where they are at the end. And we've gotten wonderful comments from the school administrators, from the parents, and from the children, themselves about the effect, the impact that the program has had on them. So I agree that, each child needs to be assessed individually and worked with, individually.
I think that's a great point. And I want to piggyback off that comment because we try very hard to make sure that the Saturday universities are interactive learning. So the listeners who are here today, when I say interactive learning, what we really try to do is to put students in certain projects or certain academic situations where they can use their critical thinking skills to find answers to the problems at large, and so I think, you can develop that through competition. You can develop that through picturing, infographics, putting them in situation. One activity, I taught math one of the semesters, and the activity was, well, today you're all business owners in this class for the next 30 minutes. One of you own a business. I want you to tell me what your business is, what kind of, products would you use, how much would they cost, and how much would you charge for your product? And then I'll have them do 50 products to see who earned the most money, type of thing. So, using linear algebra and graphing and, break even and, all the big kind of topics, just develop them, putting them in a way that's easy to understand, easy to do. And what I see is a lot of students stop second guessing themselves. When you put a complicated problem on the board, you're like, where are you going with this? What's going on? But when you make it something interactive, something fun, something that they know. It was great. I think one day we were talking about probability. And we compared it to
5th, 6th, 7th, and 8th graders.
Oh, that's excellent.
Absolutely.
I didn't have that in 5th grade.
Probability?
Right.
It's ratios. It's the same thing. And so I'm trying to figure out, well,
what fractions. Let me stop. Bad Valerie.
Oh, man.
Absolutely.
Versus new math.
But when you relate probability to sports, you get everybody's attention. Everybody is now like, I think I did it. One class, there were no guys in there, so I'm like, what? Oh, we can do the weather. If today it's 90 degrees, what's the probability that tomorrow will be 30 degrees, and why? So these are things that I think families can adopt. I think these are conversations you can have at your dinner table, stuff like that. So I just
we also had a course in hip hop critical thinking, theory thinking.
Mm-hmm.
Talk a little bit about
Absolutely.
that.
Absolutely. Using hip hop, right, as a form of communication. You talked about communication and how do you get students to be literate? Well, start with the first thing that they know. The little baby lyrics, right? What a little baby saying his song, but using that as a way to help them understand what they're saying and, what's under what do you when you say that, well then what do you mean, to help them do deductive reasoning without having to explain it in a long drawn out theory class, and the students are engaged because these are things that they know. They can I mean, there's so many different ways we can look at this in a positive sense. I think that's the end all be all when we're talking about objectives and goal setting. The most effective way that the students make progress is when they feel that they're part of the process. They don't feel like they're part of the program.
Right.
They feel like this is my program and we are the cohort, and what you see is they start to speak up. They start to, get a little bit more affirmative in the things that they're saying and stuff like that, so the challenge is, how do you translate that and make it scalable? Because now you have a whole bunch of students who are going on to Google Classroom, and they see the syllabus, and they see the assignments, but the big thing is you have to understand how to self-educate yourself in a way that's fun. And you, in my opinion, I don't think you learn that until you get to like your college years where you tested out of everything, but now you have to really sit down and study. So we're always working to figure out how to make it better.
Another thing that's important to us is, I mentioned it before, intergenerational engagement. So we try to find ways to make that happen. This past summer, we had a civic engagement component with our Building Chicago's Next CEO. And so we brought in a civil rights activist, Dr. Ruby Sales, to engage with the young people. And it was, you want to talk a little bit about that?
Absolutely. I can.
I'm loving the comments that the folks.
Yeah, I'm loving them too. I don't know. What do we do? Should we address that? Should we? Absolutely. Ruby Sales is amazing. I'm reading, I'm telling everybody about this book because it's amazing, but I'm reading Walking with the Wind. It's a memoir of the movement by John Lewis. And the reason I brought that up is because when we were in the BCNC program, we challenged them, well, who is John Lewis and who is C.T. Vivian? And you would think, oh my God, yeah, John Lewis, it was very silent on the call. And what we realized is that there is a disconnect between history and our, future kind of generation now, who are rioting and doing the things that happened way long ago. If you read the story about what happened after Martin Luther King's assassination and what the riots did to the city of Chicago, I think people have a different perspective on how to respond to racism today. But it's important to have the community relationship with people like Ruby Sales, Michelle Alexander, Diane Nash, all of these people who've experienced the struggle and can speak to it in a way that is authentic. Now we're outside of the history book and we're in storytelling mode. We're now in something that's engaging, something that I can relate to from somebody who is still alive.
Yes.
And I think that brings in a whole different dynamic. And that stuff is very important.
Yes, indeed. So I know you guys were talking but I shared a number of comments. Did you guys have a chance to, take in any of those comments that I shared? And I'll ask Pierre, I don't know if you had time. I know you were in and out.
I did take a look at a couple of them, and I know Robert Douglas very well from Roseland. He's a zealot. He's an advocate, and he's absolutely right. There is a social compact that we need to have. Okay, and again, I think that we left it in the hands of the schools. It was public schools, and they said, well, public school for everybody. It's free. We don't have to pay. But that doesn't mean we don't have responsibilities. It doesn't mean that we don't have to be engaged. So civic engagement is very important, and I think that's what Robert is saying. I think that Danielle Lawson, I see her here, and she says some educators are daring we're blessed in Chicago. Chicago educators are social sciences as opposed to history teachers. I'll take that on faith. I met a lot of good teachers in the public schools. I went to Catholic schools, so I have to testify to that. I went to St. Ignatius and Holy Angel. So I did not go to public schools, but I know and have dealt with many, many, many veterans of public schools. And again, I don't think it's the teachers as much. I think it's the system of how we empower and make education important. I don't think the teachers come there and say, we're just going to do a bad job. We're not going to teach the kids. I don't think they do that. I think what they do is they take what they have, and I think they work with what they have. And I think that we as citizens have to be civically engaged. And this is a civic issue. It's not just an issue of education. It's an issue of civics, okay? And if you don't understand that you got to be engaged in our community and what happens to it, then you're not going to be able to get what you want. And that's what the remote learning piece is showing. It's something in your lap. You cannot, push it. You can't say it's in school now. It's in your house. It's in your lap. And you have to be willing, and we want to be willing with you to support you. Because if you don't, then all of this shooting and all these things you're seeing in the street, that's just the result of that neglect. That's all it is. I keep saying to people, I don't know why people don't get that. People don't get up in the morning and say, we just gonna go downtown and stick up everything. We just gonna go downtown and break windows. They don't get up in the morning doing that. There's a reason that they are doing that. Okay, and it's our educational system. It's the neglect that has been endemic in our society. It's COVID-19, economic, bringing all.
Okay.
He's right.
Yeah, he was hitting it right on the head. But I do want to piggyback off that. I think this time more than ever, we need each other.
Right.
I think we need each other from a national level to a very communal level here in the city of Chicago. And I think the best thing that people can do, in my opinion, is just to show up. Just show up. You go to any nonprofit office and see what they're doing. Call any nonprofit just to see what they're doing. See how you can help. You can donate, but the time is more valuable than money. I don't know how many times you got to understand that time is much more valuable than money. So when people show up, things change. And I think that's what the Black Star is really wants to get back to, having the community approach to these problems. Because if it's hard for CPS to do by itself, I'm pretty sure it's going to be hard for any single entity to handle by themselves. We have to do the work.
Yes. And I appreciate the comments that people were making about Philip and his work and importance to the community. And we do this. We wake up every day, just to continue his legacy.
Your passion is amazing. I just observe everybody who works with Black Star Project, whether they're employed by Black Star Project or not. Everybody has the same level of enthusiasm and passion, and that speaks volumes for Philip.
He worked closely with your dad. Yeah. I remember your dad coming and sitting in the office. So absolutely, Raheem said, it's going to take a community, and not just Chicago, the whole, well,
Yeah.
that's another.
Yeah, I try not to do it either, but it's important. I
Yeah.
want to say, I can't say this enough. We absolutely need each other, and I think we can do it. I think it's been done. This is one of the main reasons that I'm indulging myself into really learning how organized the movement was back in 1960s, back in the 1950s, and understanding how all of these things play out, because I think I think we can help each other more than more than ever now, and
Yeah.
I know it's hard. I know it's very hard. I mean, we sit and have really long conversations trying to be strategic, looking at the landscape, looking at resources, looking at how to, allocate, how cost benefit, you name it. We've done it, and the bottom line is, without the community support, there's just no capacity to help the future of the children. People literally just have to give their time. If you just give your time, give us a call, give Pierre a call. Nonprofit Utopia, we work with other organizations that's focusing on recidivism, which is a whole nother issue in itself that is being undermined right now. All of these things play out together, and so it really takes every one of us to step up and do something.
Alrighty, I am going to wind this down. Leighton Olson, who is a member of Nonprofit Utopia, I didn't see him make any comments, but before we came on, he did send an email. He wanted people to know that the Illinois Broadband Commission is going to have a virtual meeting on Tuesday, September 16th at 11 o'clock. And he wanted to know if any of us would be attending. I know that I can't attend because I got another engagement, but Pierre, I don't know if that's something you or Gloria.
Well, I'll try to make some space for a meeting. Of course, we've known Leighton a long, long time. So Leighton is a soldier, and he's been out here a long time doing this. I've known him 20 years at least, and so we want to support his ideas and his efforts because they're good ones, and he's always been trying to advance things in our community. So we want to make sure that we support him.
All right,
We
awesome.
have a community cleanup project that day, but we'll try to call in too.
Okay. All right, awesome.
That's another
Absolutely.
thing
And
we
also,
do. Clean up
please,
the
And
community.
and let me thank you, Valerie, for what you're doing.
Yeah.
I think nonprofit utopia is a fantastic idea,
Yeah.
and I know you taken this idea and grown it from a concept to now it's all over the country, and I think it's very important that we support this idea. And so if you're not engaged as a member, and I'm talking to people out there in the audience, you should be, and get on and be a member to support this great idea and great concept that I think is very important in our communities. And I know if you're working with Julia Stash and she brought you on, I know it's important. So congratulations on that. I think that speaks very well of nonprofit utopia and how it's being received in our communities and the funding community as well.
Okay. Well, thank you. Thank you. I really need to thank Cecilia Conrad. She is the managing director there. She, had worked with Julia Stash when Julia was the CEO there. But Cecilia Conrad is over Lever for Change, and she's also a managing director at MacArthur. And I do thank her.
I think Cecilia. I think, but Julia's the board chair, right? I think she's the board chair of Legal Change.
Well, if she's not the chair, she's still on the board. She's still very
Yes, absolutely, yes.
God is good, is all I got to say.
Right.
And before we go, I want to kind of wrap up or kind of summarize some of the comments that were made. And bear with me. I want to go to the comments. So I think one of the issues that we're having, one is Chicago Public Schools has indicated that they want to go to remote learning, but they were not prepared. And the onus is on us to tap into our networks and to do what we can to fend for ourselves and help others navigate this new normal, which is totally not normal. And then I also heard that it's important for the village to take care of itself, and we should do things not necessarily for pay. But then on the other hand, we've got most of us, especially in light of COVID-19, we're struggling financially, and we may not necessarily have the technical skills. So we're going to need to do something, in my mind, to help parents and guardians, develop parenting skills, develop technical skills, and then help community organizers. Community organizers do community organizing. But I think, working with someone like Pierre Clark, who is not only a community organizer, but who is very, very technically inclined, if we can kind of replicate that would be.
Well, that's what remote learning hub.mn.co is. Okay, it's a concept and a site for people to come together and collaborate. It has a very strong collaborative feature in it. It has, as you know, it has very strong ability for us to come together and share ideas and work together, and we should do that.
Okay, awesome. Alrighty, so we've come to the end of our show, and I want to thank you guys. I want to thank Gloria Smith. She's the executive director of Black Star Project. I want to thank Raheem Clark. What is it, Clark? Forgive me.
Raheem Cooper Thomas.
Yes. I get that myself. I want to call him Raheem Thomas. I want to call him Raheem Cooper. But it's both,
Okay, forgive me, Raheem. And then we've got Pierre Clark, Managing Director of Urban Development Unlimited LLC. Thank you guys so much for being guests. And I know we're not strangers. We'll probably be talking to each other very, very soon about some other projects. And thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Pierre, for being a wonderful member. And thank the Black Star people for being just wonderful partners in everything that we do. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
Thank you.
And I want to ask people to tune in next Friday the 25th. We're really going to continue this conversation. So I'm sorry, Friday the 18th, we're going to be talking about leveraging elementary education networks for safe, effective learning. And our guests are going to be Carolina Gaite. She's the co-executive director of Blacks Together, and Taliba Moore, community organizer at Kofi. And you guys are, welcome to, come back, and, we'll hear some really interesting perspectives as we hear about, other communities and how they're also handling the pandemic and the need for remote learning. All righty. So I want to thank everyone at Facebook, everybody who watched us on YouTube. Please share. Let other people know about Nonprofit Utopia. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
All right. Bye, guys.
Bye-bye.